In the wake of the recent school shootings down in South Florida, we thought it would be very timely and appropriate to find out the best way to talk with our children, with our peers, and our grandchildren about what happened and, more importantly, why. Dr. Bill Hillner is here. He is a noted psychologist in town with the Relationship Therapy Center. Dr. Hillner, welcome back.
Thank you.
What is the best way for us to start the conversation with our children, with our grandchildren about what happened in Florida?
Well, I think there's been enough exposure in the news so the kids are already aware of what's going on for the most part. So what you want to do is look for both verbal and nonverbal signals that there's something bothering them, or there's something on their mind. And as I mentioned last time I was here, the best way to do that is not with questioning, but just make statements. You know, I can see that what you've seen on television is really bothering you. I can see that you're curious about what happened.
What happens when you have a child, regardless of the age, that comes up to you and says, I don't want to go to school. I'm afraid I'll get shot.
Again, you want to first do what I call active listening or empathizing and just saying, yeah, I know it seems really scary to be at school, that what you've heard has been really frightening. Why don't you tell me more about what's going on?
Is it okay for us to admit to our kids that, yeah, we're scared too? This is a strange thing. While not an isolated incident, this is something that's bothering us adults as well.
I think it's okay to be honest about that, but I also believe that it's important not to overdo that. You don't want to give the kids the message that things are out of control, that there's no way that you can protect them, and there's nothing anybody can do. I like to talk to kids about the difference between what is possible versus probable.
Right.
Children do not understand that very well. So you want to explain that to them, that yes, things do happen, but it's not probable that it's going to happen.
When you're talking with an adolescent or a teenager,
right,
do you take a different sort of approach on this? It's tough to raise a teenager under the best of circumstances, but when something like this comes into the mix, you have a 17-year-old that's the same age as one of the shooters in the recent school shootings have been. How do you handle that?
Well, one of the
pretty
things,
much the same way, or is there a different?
Pretty much the same way, although, again, I think a lot of times adolescents can be mobilized, use some of their emotions and anger to begin looking at alternatives. If you listen to what's going on right now in Florida, the teens involved with this are talking about setting up groups, they're talking about having a national movement. Those kinds of things really touch at a teen. They want to be able to do something, to make a difference.
They seem to be a lot more subject to peer pressure than younger children or adults are. If there are students around here that want to take part in something like that, what's your advice to them?
I would say go for it. Do it. We had a discussion this last weekend at in our religious organization about what can we do as a group, what can the teenagers do as a group. There's a meeting this afternoon in the community at 5:30 for Moms Against Violence, but there also can be teen groups that can be formed. So I would encourage them to take all that energy and direct it constructively.
What is the best way for us to validate our kids' fears when something like this happens, early on the front end?
Very much and it almost sounds trite, but really actively listening. Just saying to them, yeah, I can see that this really frustrates you. I can see that this really bothers you. It must be terribly confusing to hear all these politicians talk and all these other individuals talk. I want to hear what you have to say.
Invariably, at a situation like this, it does get politicized,
yes,
unfortunately. And sometimes when that happens, it seems to cheapen the impact, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
All right, one other question here, and then we're going to kind of shift gears after a quick break. Tell us the importance of family time, especially after a situation like this.
Well, particularly for very young children, that is below the age of 5 or 6, are going to be more concerned about separation issues. They want to know that mom and dad are okay. So you really want to make sure that they feel safe, they feel secure, that routines are typically followed. You may want to even indulge your child in terms of allowing them some extra time with you, but they need to feel safe and secure. For older children, you again want to provide whatever your family routine is and encourage them to participate in that routine.
All right. We're going to hold you over for another few minutes, and we're going to continue our discussion with Dr. Bill Hillner from the Relationship Therapy Center coming up right after this break. Stay with us.